Hey HBs, you're listening to Heaving Bosom's Ask a Badass, where HBs get a chance to talk about romance, themselves, and what they love about the genre. Make sure to tune in on Monday, January 13th, for Aaron and I recapping Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuinston. It's going to be part 1 because we loved it so much that our squee could not be contained in a single go. And now, we've got Laura and Adam, a badass HB couple who both read romance and have gotten closer to each other and themselves through it. Here we go.
All right. Hi, guys.
Hi.
So, listeners, I'm here with Laura and Adam. They are a couple of human beings, but also a couple romantically. And we are here to talk to them about a couple of things. Regular Ask a Badass podcast things, but also, Adam, you were featured in the Romantically Inclined Reviews blog post about dudes who read romance.
Yeah, I was.
Romantically Inclined has been kind of trying to do a deep dive into the dudes that read romance, because supposedly there are some, and here you are.
Here I am.
There's more in the cult, too. We actually have a really pretty great active selection of identifying male people, which is kind of nice. And then, Laura, you're his representative.
Yes, exactly.
You are the reason he reads romance, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, she's the one who started this whole charade.
Although I can trace it back even further, like at least 2 more people. So,
as far as like that were part of like this steamroll train that got things going, or
oh yeah, absolutely. I can break it down if you want.
Yeah, do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so it all started with a old friend of mine. She's in the cult, Eliza MacArthur. She's also a writer. Her first book should be coming out sometime at the end of this year, I think. But she's also part of the Biscuits and Bodices on Instagram, which they're hilarious if you all want to check them out. And they also have really insightful, poignant reviews of various books. And of course, I mean, with Heaving Bosoms being what it is, I'm sure plenty of HBs would appreciate that. But so she told me that she had a friend of hers who was looking for feedback for a beta reader, and she asked if I was interested, and I had never done anything like that before. So she pointed me in the direction of author Rosalind Chase, and I started working with her about a year ago. It was last October.
It seems so recent, though.
I know. All the books I've read and talked to you about, it just makes it seem like it's going by so fast. But yeah, so I started working with her, and she didn't release this one, but it was for a historical lesbian romance. Can't remember. It was one of those England Times. I can't remember
England
specifically.
Times.
I want to say it was Regency.
So, I mean,
Times.
for the terms of this podcast, that's good.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I'm probably as bad as Aaron about knowing when things take place. Like, you could be like, hey, Natalie, that was actually Sherlock Holmes times. And I'd be like, I can't even picture what those outfits look like. Nope. So this is a mystery to me. So you could have been like England times or whatever. And I'd be like, great. Yeah, I have a general mind picture of that. Perfect.
I just got kind of the Jane Austen vibes. I'm like, is that Regency or I don't know, something like that. But,
is that what Jane Austen is?
Oh God, no! Don't cite me on this because I could be wrong. But
I have no idea. I have no clue.
Don't at us.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I know what that is. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
So it was a female Regency, maybe England Times romance that was never released. Right?
Yes, because she ended up moving on to a couple different projects. Yeah, so I have just been working with her actively since then, both short stories, novellas, and novels. Some have been released, some haven't. And I cannot recommend the work of Rosalind Chase enough. Like, currently, Lot's Wife is out, which is a erotic retelling of the biblical figure. It's basically giving her agency and giving her life and making it about, like, she calls it her Reclaiming Women project. It's phenomenal. Can't recommend it enough.
So that's Lot's Wife. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then
I haven't read it yet, but she's told me so much about it. Especially, is it Gabriel? Is that the angel that...
Yes, Gabriel likes to be pegged. In this book, it's incredible.
That is amazing. I feel
Yes.
I feel like for the number of us that love Tiffany Rice and love, you know what I
Yes.
mean? That I feel like
Yes.
there's a lot of those same vibes, right? In the you know what I mean? Where you're taking this thing that you've heard about and then basically pegging it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It was really through reading her books. I'd never really read erotica or romance. I mean, except for maybe when I was younger, the Twilight series, and then some of the Sookie Stackhouse novels.
Sookie.
Yeah. He finally understands the context thanks to that Heaving Bosoms episode.
That's what got me started on Heaving Bosoms. Was she played me that one because she knew that I haven't watched the show or read any of the books, but I was aware of it, obviously.
So I was also tangentially aware of True Blood through friends and things like that. And I never had HBO, so I never watched it. And I didn't even know there were books until Aaron and Melody were like, "These are books, Natalie." But you know, I'm not the person who has to read the book before the movie comes out.
Yeah, it's just one of those things in daily life now where I'm like, out of nowhere, I'll just go, Sookie. I'll just go, I'm a waitress.
I feel like that I'm a waitress line is going to come up in my real life at some point, and I'm just going to lose it, right? It's going to be like someone's going to say, "Oh, like, what is your job?" And they're going to say, "I'm a waitress." And then I'm going to laugh, and they're going to think I'm laughing at them, that being a waitress is something to be laughed at, and it's not. That is not the case, because being a waitress is hard work.
My bourgeois privilege here.
So then, Adam, you kind of got roped into this, or did you come willingly into the interview process?
I was roped. Roped in the best sense, because she kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and then like all these books that she wanted me to read. And then we were at our the manager's office of our apartment complex, and they had this bookshelf with just random books for people to read while they're waiting. Mm-hmm. And we found Lindsay Sands, A Bite to Remember, and we're like looking at it, and we're like, this looks ridiculous. And we're like, we should take it. Like, yeah, we should totally take this. And she read it, and she was like, okay, I've blown through this in like a day and a half. You need to read this.
Yeah.
I'm like, fine, I'll read it. And then I read it, and then that was the end of it, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, and then I started on my own journey.
Yeah.
And now I'm in love with all the Dukes.
Well, that's actually how I got back into romance as well, was through found romances. That I found a couple romances at work. One was Elisa Claypass, and then one was a Jane Feather, which I thought that was a fake name. And I mean, it is probably a fake name, but I was like, Jane Feather, this is ridiculous. And it was so good. It was so good. It was Regency Spies. And it was like the best thing I've read. Don't worry. I will send you a link.
Yes, please.
They're so good. They were like, okay, maybe other people know actually what wars are. And see if you're out there, drop me a line. But it was a war with France, whichever one that was. I think Napoleon.
They never stop.
I mean, maybe it was Napoleon. I don't know. But they were spies during that one war with France. Do you guys only read romance, or are you reading it mixed in with other things?
I'm all over the place. I am, at least.
What was your go-to genre before romance happened to you?
Oh, man. I was rereading a lot of my Hunter S. Thompson books.
Mm-hmm. Just
because there's been a big revival as of late, because we live in Louisville, and that's his hometown.
Oh, yeah.
Two of the local museums here did exhibits on him. Like, one did an exhibit on his Freak Power campaign when he ran for sheriff of Aspen in 1970. And
is this real life?
Yeah, this is totally real life. And the other one was just a covering of like the Gonzo years of through illustration at the local art museum. Uh-huh. It's like all like you had original Stedman, like Ralph Steadman drawings there, and first copies of books, and his like original photographs from his first book, Hell's Angels.
Yeah.
which is what I'm currently reading through. But
is it about like the Hells Angels, like the motorcycle?
He was really the first person to like do a deep dive into them back in the '60s, like when they were like not really. They were just more of a public menace, and they're just like a misunderstood biker gang.
Does it talk about when the Rolling Stones hired them to do security at their concert at Altamont? It's in the movie Gimme Shelter. This is you need to watch this movie. It's a documentary called Gimme Shelter, and it's about this big concert that the Rolling Stones coordinated at Altamont Raceway back in the 60s. Actually, I think it was 72. And they hired the Hells Angels to do security, and they paid them in beer. Does this sound like a good idea?
No.
So, hey, weirdly, there was a lot of violence and somebody got stabbed. And so it turned into this big tragedy because this person ended up dying and going really down a dark path here. So, but it's a really, really interesting documentary called Gimme Shelter. And I bet if you like Hunter S. Thompson and stuff like that, you would really like it as well.
Yeah, this book came before, because in '72 he was following George McGovern on the campaign trail in his bid to usurp Nixon, which went well, obviously.
Oh my gosh, what even is history? All of those facts did not mean anything to my brain.
Know.
That is not my...
I can't recommend rereading. Like every 4 years, every election cycle, I reread Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 1972, and literally nothing has changed. It is there's so many beats and so many things that just resonate today like crazy.
Yeah.
Like back in 2016, 2012, like it's all the same. Nothing's changed.
I wonder if there's any sort of like 2012 Hunter S. Thompson that exists out there. Probably not. You got to have your shit a little more together.
No, there really is no writer that can really do what he did, because he just inserted himself so deeply into the story that there's really nobody who could. You can't really get away with how he wrote and what he did. Yeah, that's what I realized, because his writings changed the course of my life. It's like I was a pre-med major, and then I watched the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I'm like, this is bonkers. And then I started reading the books. I'm like, this is what I want to do. Because I've always been, drawn to the written word, and this was like what I wanted to do. This was the writing that I really gravitated towards. So then I changed my major to journalism, and I was at the University of Dayton for one semester, and their journalism program was subpar. So I moved back home to Kentucky and went to WKU, Western Kentucky, because they had a stellar journalism program. But after about, I'd say, a year and a half of being in the journalism program, I realized that it's not it wasn't for me, because I wouldn't be able to write the way that I wanted to write. Right. And one of the situations that really cemented it was there was a quote unquote shooting at one of the dorm rooms. But I just remember like all the journalism students like going crazy and gravitating towards. I'm like, good Lord, you people are vultures.
It's like a frothing at the mouth situation. It's one of those things where I think we've bred this culture of having to get the first scoop, right? Or having to be first in order to be successful. And if you're not first, you have to do whatever you can to become first. And that's kind of a terrifying concept when you see it in that setting.
Yeah, when you see it firsthand, when you see, people going up to interview, like greeting family members like minutes after they got news about the passing of somebody close to them. Yeah. If it bleeds, it leads. That was what they taught us, and nothing's really changed. I mean, it used to be a reputable industry. It's like back when Cronkite went to Vietnam and showed what was actually happening. Lyndon Johnson was quoted to say, "I've lost Cronkite, I've lost Middle America." So people used to, journalists used to have pull. They used to.
Well, now if you say the wrong thing, you're just fired. So
yeah. So we used to go to journalists to differentiate between the nonsense that the talking heads in politics were, what were they saying, and make some sense of it. Now we go to comedian journalists. It's like we go to people like John Oliver and Jon Stewart back in the day, and now it's Trevor Noah to take the news and filter it through a lens that is
because it sucks.
Digestible.
And so you want to watch it and you want to know what's going on, but you don't want to be depressed, so you have to watch someone funny do it. This is one of those times where I was like, what was the original question?
Are we still reading? Or are we just reading romance?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Laura, are you reading anything besides romance? Because you were kind of, based on what you had said in the questionnaire that we talked about, you were kind of non-romance until you met Rosalind Chase. Or am I saying it wrong? Rosalind.
I think Rosalind. I even texted her and asked her, is it Roz or Rose? And I think it was Rose. She agreed on the Z.
I think, honestly, sometimes I say sounds because I'm from the Chicago area. So it's probably always going to be Rosalind for me. So sorry, Rosalind. No, I will do my best.
But yeah, for me, honestly, I tend to deep dive a lot with things that really catch my attention. Mm-hmm. And I was actually just looking at my Goodreads. I'm like, oh my God, I've read 50 books since June.
Yeah, I would say goodness. That's probably up there for me. I went through because I'm really bad about my Goodreads. And so I think I went in there and it was you have 130 books in process because,
nice.
I never get to the end because I don't go past the, the spoilers or the sneak peeks or whatever that they have in romances a lot. So if you don't get to that last page, Goodreads is you didn't finish this book, quitter.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, so I had to go through and manually do all of it. But anyway, 50 books since June. Holy cow.
Yeah. Some of them are short stories. Some are novellas. The biggest thing after I started reading those few is what really set it off. I think probably the Ice Planet Barbarians series was the big one.
Did you love it?
Oh my God. It was seriously just I ended up, Amazon had the 3 months free on the Kindle Unlimited, a 3-month trial. Mm-hmm. We ended up keeping it, and I just wanted to read this because that was one of the things that Eliza and Rosalind talked about on the Biscuits and Bodices page. Mm-hmm. And this looks interesting because I've always been the type where I'm generally not interested in most contemporary stuff. That's definitely changed with some of the romance novels I've read.
Yeah.
But the whole sci-fi element really intrigued me. So I think I was averaging 1.5 a day for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then reading the short stories. I love my what?
Your monster boyfriends.
Oh, yes, I love my monster boyfriends. Oh, my gosh. But yeah, so for me, it's just because it's so new to me, I'm still learning so much. I'm learning about all the different subgenres and the subgenres of those subgenres, just how everything breaks down. And I'm at this point now where I'm still just really exploring what catches my interest. So I've been all over the place, really. I think the most recent ones I read, so I learned about the Omegaverse recently, which
Tell me everything, because I do not know anything about this.
So basically, it's this idea of an alternate universe where men can get pregnant, and then you have your alphas, your betas, and your omegas, and the omegas are the ones that can have babies, male and females, and it gets into really specific breakdowns of the genitalia, the anatomy, because...
it is a romance.
Yes, and then they kind of compare it to wolves, basically. They're using that as a basis. Right. So even if it's a contemporary Omegaverse book, they'll still have the nodding and all that stuff going on. It was just one of those things where it's something that I wasn't necessarily interested in, but I was intrigued. And I'm I did not know this was a thing. So I am extremely curious. So I read a couple in that genre. And then the last ones I reread Kiss Quotient because just love it so much. And then I read a military romance, which that's another thing that I generally wouldn't really be interested in because I'm an Air Force brat and I'm always around my dad and his friends, and he's got former Blue Angel friends, a former stealth bomber fighter pilot. He was a fighter pilot. So, just being raised in military, I find it interesting, but I wouldn't normally seek it out. And we went to a writing convention here in Louisville. It's called the Imaginarium, and there was a military romance author, J.M. Madden, and I read one of her Kindle Unlimited books because it had a dog on the front. It was called Wicked Healing.
I understand.
Yeah, and
she talked about that on her panel. She's like, put a dog on the cover. And like, if anything happens to the dog, like, it's like, look, say goodbye to your sales.
Oh,
well, something did happen to the dog, but it's it's fine. It's fine. So I love this because she focuses on wounded veterans, which I found that element really intriguing because she talked about how she would go into the gritty of it, and she doesn't really hold anything back, which I think is super important for that realistic element. But with this, it's a Navy SEAL and his canine. They both were injured in an IED explosion. But
they were both injured? Oh, God.
Yes. They both lost the dog lost his right back foot, and then the human lost his right foot. But they recovered together. And oh my gosh, it's so great. So they're separated initially, and he doesn't know that his dog has survived, and he's recovering. God. And then the handler for the dog reaches out to him and lets him know the dog is still alive. And then they end up falling in love at the end.
I'm gonna cry.
Oh, it was so good. Oh my gosh. So I recommend
I'm gonna need you
to
send me a link to that book. It's important.
Yes, absolutely.
I had a conversation with Blair. Well, so are you guys writers?
Oh God, don't look at me like that.
I'm not looking at you like anything. I mean, you definitely are. He has a creative writing degree from Western. That's what he
you don't have to I'm not saying have you publish things. Just as a writer, your brain works different ways when you're creating stories, right?
Yeah.
And that is not the way that my brain works. My brain works to consume stories only. And then I can if you were like, hey, Natalie, is this a good idea for a story? I could say, yeah, or nah. And then, the whole Omegaverse thing that you were just talking about, that is to create a whole world is something I cannot even fathom this.
I know.
It is.
World building is.
Oh man, that was did we go to any of those?
The world building
talks?
Panels?
Yeah, that's something that's so interesting with that Omegaverse too is there are these ground rules set for everybody, and these different authors in different genres still stick to these rules, even if you have shifter romance or you have contemporary romance.
Okay, so there's a bunch of authors, a bunch of different authors are all writing in this same pretend universe.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
I guess I shouldn't say pretend universe. That sounds like it's
alternate universe.
That makes it sound less than it is, and that's not what I intend. But yeah, alternate universe. That's bananas. So that's cool. There's these rules that all these other authors are following. Wow, that is crazy. So sometimes because I have a very active imagination, I cannot do too many paranormal or fantasy books because it's a world where literally anything can happen. There are no limits. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so my brain sometimes would spin off into this well, what if this could happen? And what if this could happen? And then you don't sleep for 3 days. And then that is what happens is you just don't sleep for 3 days.
I think that's a good way of telling how skilled an author is, though. If they're, of course, you have your George R. R. Martins who give you every single detail, but I think another really useful skill, and for me, this is what I prefer, is having that world built, but not giving you every single detail, and then providing just enough information to where you are wondering, but you're hopefully not obsessing. But
yeah,
the world I fell into. I read the Dune books recently, all 6 of them.
Holy cow.
Just the 6. I'm not going to read, no offense to Brian Herbert, but I'm not going to read his continuation of his father's series. It ends with Chapter House as far as I'm concerned.
You probably like the original Star Warses too, huh?
Oh, totally.
Yes.
I actually have no Star Wars. I shouldn't even get into an argument about Star Wars because literally I've only seen the original, the 70s Star Wars.
You should keep it that way.
Yeah,
I don't.
I totally forgot where we were.
I don't know where we are either, but I would love to talk about kind of what you guys are most passionate about, in your lives right now. I believe dogs are involved, which I'm very excited to hear about.
Oh my gosh. So. Yes, it's honestly the basis of our relationship.
Really is.
Actually met at the dog park in Bowling Green.
It's very Hallmark original movie.
Oh yeah. So,
you both had separate dogs.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you guys met at the dog park with your separate dogs.
Yes.
I came there with I showed up there with Brave New World by Aldous Huxley.
It's one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah, just to sit there and read, and
some light reading.
light reading in the dog park, get my dog some exercise, and then here comes this very cute girl in a Transformers t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Which is ironic because honestly, I'm sorry to say I've just seen the Michael Bay films, but it was one of those classic Transformers shirts because I thought it was cute. But I don't always do it, but I just have this thing where sometimes I will just talk to complete strangers.
Yeah.
And obviously being at a dog park, I feel a little more comfortable doing that because I feel like dog people can generally, they're a little more trustworthy. I'd like to think.
You all have something to talk about. Which one's your dog? It's kind of the
Exactly.
same thing when you have a small child, except I don't ever want to talk to other people's parents. So.
Oh, well, yeah.
Other people's dog parents. Yeah, I'll talk to them all day.
But yeah, so I just saw him sitting there in his little patio chair with reading Brave New World, and I went up to him, and for some reason, one of the first things I told him was the fact that my dog Echo had taken a shit in my back seat the day before. So, and then I'm talking to him, and I was, oh, she's pooping now. I need to go clean that up.
Yeah.
So,
all I talk about is dog poop.
exactly. And then I came back and he had moved from his patio chair onto the stone bench where I'd been sitting. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, and slick move, Adam. Nice work.
And then our first official date, the first thing that happened was, I think you all hadn't lived in that apartment very long, right? It's pretty new.
So you were suffering from the stomach. You were recovering from a stomach flu.
Oh, yes, there was that first.
And then as soon as you get to my apartment,
Echo just takes a big dump on your new carpet.
Yep.
It's okay. It's tough being a lady in 2019, okay? It's like,
yes.
I mean, there's so much pressure. You have to be perfect,
Can't put that pressure on the dog.
Yeah.
But we had a sweetheart table at our wedding, and we actually had a little sign that my sister made, and it said, "It all started with a conversation about dog poop." Yeah.
Like this relationship, its foundation is built on shit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a pile of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So, are you guys ready for a lightning round?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
so what I thought would be the easiest, and if there was a question that both of you wanted to answer, that's awesome, but I thought I would do a question for each person, and then we could go from there. Laura, what is your Hogwarts house?
Oh dear. So I identify as a Slitherclaw.
Okay.
Can I give you the quick background to that?
Yeah, 100%. This is not actually a lightning round.
Oh, okay. So when Pottermore first launched, I took the quiz and I got Slytherin wanting Ravenclaw. And at first I was kind of disappointed about it. But over time, like, you know what? I have a healthy dark side. Cunning is great. There's still intelligence and hard work in that. So, you know what? It's fine. I'll try to ignore the fact that even though they say not all Slytherins are terrible, almost all the ones we see in the books and movies are terrible, but fine. And then when they restructured Pottermore, I went back and retook it because I couldn't remember my old account. Mm-hmm. And I was telling myself, you know what? I want Slytherin again. It's fine. And then I got Ravenclaw. And then I found out that there are those combined houses, so I identify as Slitherclaw.
Have you ever paid attention to some of they do the Hogwarts houses like they do astrology, where it'll be like Slytherin with Ravenclaw rising kind of thing?
I haven't.
Things like that. Oh,
that's funny.
You're talking to the wrong groups of people, my friend. You need to start.
Ooh,
Adam, I meant to ask this question earlier. And in your interview, you had talked about like that you had been reading a lot of Tessa Dare. You had read a couple Tessa Dare. Do you have a go-to author now that you've been? And we'll talk about romance go-to author, but you can talk about non-romance go-to author as well.
Oh, as far as go-to romance right now, the only ones that I've read multiple books of would be Madeline Hunter with her the Decadent Duke series, because I had to find out about the Duke of Langford.
Is it out yet, or are you still waiting for it to come out?
The Decadent Dukes, like all three of them have been out.
Okay.
And I've read two of them now. I still have to read the first one, which doesn't interest me as much, but I'm a completionist in that sense, where I have to. I got to find out about the third one to find out.
Yeah.
But go-to authors outside of romance, I always revisit Hunter S. Thompson, and every once in a while, especially with the 20s coming up again, I've reread F. Scott Fitzgerald a few times, so I'm probably going to go back to read The Great Gatsby again.
When you reference the 20s coming up again, is that like the 20s in years, or are you talking about like the Roaring 20s becoming more
20s.
Popular? Okay.
Yeah, because I've already seen people who are dressing as flappers for parties and like having like flapper parties and stuff.
Oh, like okay. So
oh yes,
I don't understand pop culture very well. So my friend, you know her. Her name's Bethany. She's going to Bethany M. She was on Ask a Badass, but she also is in the cult very actively. And she is going to a Roaring 20s themed New Year's party. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, flappers. Now I get it. Because it's 2020. And that's how things work. Okay. There we go. F. Scott Fitzgerald. Great. So I have never been like a classics kind of person. Like I think probably because you're forced to read them. You know what I mean?
Like they're definitely hit or miss.
And I definitely never I don't ever need to read Kafka again. Read enough of that a-hole. And there's a couple other ones where I was like, why are we still reading these books? In high school.
For me, that book is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Like, I'm sorry, I just can't. I can't do that book. I just don't like those characters so much. I mean, Huck Finn is better than Tom Sawyer. Is that his name? Yeah, yes. I hate Tom. I hate Tom so much.
I have some very vivid memories about the Tom and Huck movie.
Yes, JTT.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I owned that movie.
Yeah, I had the clamshell VHS of that.
Yes, heck yes. So that's really the only Tom Sawyer. He's, it's always JTT. He's my forever Tom. Laura, are you an Aaron or a Melody?
Adam constantly says I'm this blend of the two.
You really are.
So I think it just depends on the topic, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see that about certain, like other people where you're like, when it comes to this, I'm more of a Melody, and when it comes to this, I'm more of a
Yeah, definitely.
Adam, do you have a problematic fave? It can be a movie, it could be a book, it could be a human being.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one because there's a lot of problematic faves in the world. We talked about Chris Pratt a couple episodes ago as a problematic human being, but still hot.
I have guilty pleasures.
I'm fine with that. I will accept that as an answer. What's your guilty pleasure?
It's I really like bad movies, and the first thing that comes to my head when I think of bad movies is one that I watched as a kid that does not hold up, and it's completely juvenile and
Tell me.
Off the walls and dumb. It's Ready to Rumble with David Arquette in it, and it's a movie about wrestling fans. And
I can picture it.
It is just so one of the opening scenes is I'll just do the lines. It's like how come it looks like you have your finger in your butt? It's because I do. And then it just goes, and that's the beginning of the movie, and it's just all downhill from there.
Which is kind of like David Arquette's career in
Pretty
2
much,
lines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
No offense, David Arquette. If you're listening out there, David Arquette, that was said with all sorts of respect because you made money in movies as a movie star. Mm-hmm. Great job. If you can both answer this because I love this question. If you could bing, boom, bong something, what would it be?
Oh, I know exactly what mine would be. It would be Bing Boom Bong. Did you know that this person was also in blank? It's
Yep.
Or I'm huge into cartoons and animation and voice actors. Did you know that this person is also the voice of this, and this?
Yeah, it's amazing. That's the opposite of me.
Same.
Yeah.
Wait, their name.
Amazing. I need someone like you around all the time. Natalie, did you know this person was this? No, I did not. Is that even a movie? That would be my answer to that.
Or just butcher the names. I just rewatched this Saturday Night Live skit where it was the mom celebrity translator device. I'm becoming that person. I can't remember the names, and when I say them, I butcher them or I mix them up. It's just a mess.
You know, the guy with the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, God,
yeah, he was in that one movie. Yeah.
With her. You remember that one movie with the guy in the pants? And I just told her, shockingly, no, I don't. Sorry.
That sounds about right. Laura, what would your bing boom bong be?
So going back to the deep dive thing, I've actually been called an encyclopedia of useless information. So it would be honestly all over the place. I mean, dogs would definitely be a big one. I do have an art degree, so definitely art history, some history. Gracious, what else? Darling, I've lectured you probably thousands of times over the years. Oh, is that low number?
Millions.
Too low.
Agatha Christie.
Yes. That's one of his nicknames for me is Agatha Christie.
With love, though. I mean,
oh, yes. No, I love it. It cracks me up. It makes me laugh every time. Honestly, I'm all over the place. There's a lot of things. I would just be like, hang on. We need to discuss this right now. Let me break this down for you.
Amazing.
It's like, it's quick. I have this dream in my head where one of my favorite movies ever is RoboCop with Peter Weller playing the titular character, like Murphy RoboCop.
See, there he goes. Who are these people? But anyway.
Yeah. But,
it's all right. I've heard of RoboCop.
But he has a PhD in Italian, like, Renaissance art. So I have this fantasy in my head where me and Laura go to meet him at, like, a convention or something, and her and him are just having this intense, like, discussion about art and just going back and forth, like, throwing out names and talking about styles and techniques and all those other things. And I'm just going to be there, like, remember when they shot your hand off from that movie?
Remember RoboCop, though?
It's like, you remember when they... yeah.
Weirdly, the movies that I get confused are RoboCop and Kindergarten Cop, which are not the same at all. Those are not the same.
That'd be a wonderful crossover, though.
Like, bring your kid to work day. They just witness all that carnage. Oh, man, that's hilarious.
Okay, are you ready? I feel like I can never not ask this question, because now it's become a thing. But if you guys could dispense one condiment from your belly button, what would it be? Dog treats?
Yeah.
That's not a condiment.
Yeah.
Still,
you know what?
visual,
The everything bagel spice from Trader Joe's.
That's great. That's a great one. I like that idea. I've never had somebody say a dry thing.
Oh, didn't you? Well, I guess it would have to somehow be
like a belly button
out,
shaker,
but...
yeah.
It's a little less gross idea in my head, too. It's like, I don't need to think about newly discovered forms of bacteria in there. It's fine.
It's okay. This isn't a real world, because we don't actually have a condiment reservoir in inside our body. How do you refill it? I don't know.
It just happens.
This question doesn't need a deep dive. This is one we can just have a surface conversation about. All right, Adam, what is it?
Oh, I'm a chili head, so probably like a nice salsa, like a hot salsa. Yeah.
So one of the other HBs had said hot sauce, and that led to the husband of another HB saying, "What if it drips?" And so I'm just gonna throw that out there. I know that we said it doesn't need a deep dive, but I'm just gonna throw that out there because now you have to have that visual in your brain. Do you like salsa with other things in it? Like, I like salsa with black beans and corn in it. Do you like that?
If I'm feeling frisky, yes.
Okay. But
I
most of the time?
Most of the time it's just like sometimes I go chunky or smooth. Depends on
situation.
Yeah.
Okay, Laura and Adam, thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. If you guys out there listening would like to participate in this podcast, I would love it. You can send me an email to askabadasspod@gmail.com. You can find me on The Cult. I am Natalie M-M. I'm there, always watching, doing all the things, posting videos, starting polls. I don't know, supporting you. And you can find me there. And then also, if you wanted to read the article that Adam was featured in, It's on the website Romantically Inclined Reviews, all spelled out. And we'll link to it in the feed that's going to be on the cult and some show notes as well. Adam was interviewed, and I believe they're going to be interviewing like 2 or 3 more people.
I believe so. It was like, I think
it's like 4 total.
I think she was able
maybe.
to find 4 of them, yeah.
she scrounged up, she scraped the bottom, found 4 dudes that were willing to talk to her about romance, which is amazing. Thank you so much for doing that, Adam, because I feel like the more people that talk about it, you know, even female people or any people, because I feel like a lot of what has kept romance as, I don't know, maybe not taken as seriously is that people don't talk about how great romance is and how skillfully it's written and how really diverse it is. And I think that's probably what has kept it in that frivolous category rather than the legitimate category. And as all 3 of us know, that's not the case. So guys, Laura and Adam, keep being a badass and love yourself as much as you love heaving bosoms.
Alrighty.
Which is a lot, so.
Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list, though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.